Gracias. Hello, everyone. Coffee is portable. Okay, first of all, introduce ourselves. My name is Helder, and this is my colleague.
Good morning, I'm Christoph.
Hi.
We're both part of the pre-sales team at our company, and we are ABAPers, right? ABAP is not that. That's the
Good to
motto.
know.
SAP is moving a lot in this space again. SAP Cloud Platform. But as ABAPers, we see something else as well
Yeah.
moving forward, and that's what we want to talk about.
Yeah, we're here to speak about APIs and also to speak about cherries on top of cakes. Okay? So we work for a progressive company that out of Norway that lives and breeds ABAP. Not because we are legacy, but because we are future-proof. And therefore, what we're about to show you is something that probably you haven't seen yet, which is ABAP-driven REST APIs.
Right.
There's a lot of talk about the CDS views, about the ABAP RESTful, being RESTful. So we actually turned ABAP into an actual REST API with Swagger on top. But that's just a little piece of the cake. And we're going to take you on a journey from the cherry to the cake and from the cake to the cherry. Because our company, Neptune Software, we are known for applications, to build Fiori applications that can work online and offline and to close the gap between what people can do and the tools can do for those same people. So we can do Fiori, we can do offline, we can do all of that out of the box. But what else can we do? And that's the cake. So we have our product, the Neptune DX platform, digital experience platform, that has two runtimes. A runtime that runs on the NetWeaver stack and the runtime that runs on Node.js. And this Node.js can run therefore on any container and therefore or on any cloud. And the combo of the two is called the DX platform.
Right. So customers basically, and also partners of course, have a choice. Are they looking into on-prem in the future? Are they looking into hybrid architectures, on-prem together with a cloud platform? Or do they want to move into the cloud completely, containerize applications and servers? No matter what you're looking at and where you're at with your company and your IT environment, you can make those choices and get the same possibilities with us.
Exactly, and being the applications, the cherries, and the cake, the backend services, what we can do with these backend services is truly change the architecture from any stack to a microservices-oriented architecture. And that's what we're talking about, APIs as microservices. And how can we make these APIs? What's the threshold? And you'll see me live grabbing something out of the ABAP stack, turn it into a REST API, and expose it in about 10 seconds. No code, okay? So the stack runs on the NetWeaver stack, so-called Planet 8. Runs on the stack, so any stack, NetWeaver stack, from 7.01 up to the latest version of S4, can run on the prem, can run on the cloud, as long as it needs the NetWeaver stack. So this leverage directly building microservices and of course applications directly from any ABAP stack. Okay? Then we have the Node.js based one that runs on a Kubernetes. For instance, already available on the Google Cloud platform as the first rapid mobile application development platform that runs inside a Kubernetes container. Just go to the marketplace, click start, and you have a platform up and running.
And what's interesting here is we run on UI5, right?
Exactly.
All the cherries, yeah. Sorry.
All the cherries are UI5. And all the cherries are Fiori apps that can run inside the SAP Fiori Launchpad as an ACP UI5 app, regardless if the stack is one or the other one.
And those cherries, they're not always online applications. If you think about mobile applications on your iOS, on your Android platform, or even Windows 10 for the few of us, you can even run those applications offline when you're on the plane, when you don't have any connection, right? Because you're a sales guy out at a customer with no Wi-Fi, or you're a technician somewhere working in a warehouse or in a production environment where there's no connection to your servers. You can still use those cherries, store the data locally, and synchronize it back to your cloud or to your SAP NetWeaver on-premise systems without any hassle.
Yeah, and what kind of processes can you put on these applications? Any. So we're going to show you just at the last part, we're going to just show you how Salesforce API and how ACP ABAP-based REST API can live together in the same application seamlessly inside the same Fiori application. So we're going to talk about cherries on top of cakes, and nothing like starting the day with a nice cherry cake. Okay, so going from here, we're going just to explain you a little bit about what can you do with ABAP. And you can do a lot with it, an entire platform. A platform that can create, among many other things, can create a RESTful REST API straight from the ABAP. That is also stateful, if you want. So you can actually cache data and have a system-to-system actually having a session inside your SAP NetWeaver stack. And we say NetWeaver stack means CRM, SRM, etc.
Right. And that's a differentiator when you look at OData.
Yeah, absolutely.
OData is another protocol, but it's restless, right? So every session is a new one in your backend systems, stateless, and you cannot log your objects while you're working with the data and change them in your cherries, in your applications.
So looking at the center of this nice round graphic here, you have Planet 8, the NetWeaver stack, our product. Then you have on it ABAP, right? With our tooling, you can transform that ABAP into REST API and expose that REST API as a Swagger UI. Swagger UI is an OAP documentation that describes how the functionality works. This is done automatically. But then we have something very interesting. We have an API discovery service, so that on a microservices-oriented architecture, you can have other systems trying to say, what do you have to offer to me? They can basically just consume also a REST API directly from the ABAP stack. When I say ABAP stack, this can be an ECC, can be a 701 NetWeaver stack, can be the latest version on S4HANA, and anything in between. And this will give you the ability to connect directly to any stack for any service and provide your legacy ABAP code directly as a microservice to anything. And this anything can be any cake, but can be also cherries.
And I think discovery is a great thing to look at in a little bit more in detail, because, I mean, just if you look at open source, if you look at the web today, open APIs, if you look at Facebook, Twitter, Google services, right? The fragmentation is endless. And that's what the same thing is seen in companies, in enterprise architecture. So meaning, just because we have microservices all over the place, just because we have structured interfaces, REST APIs, OData services, and other technology stacks, it doesn't mean we know how and what to connect. And this is what we want to change. We want to make things easy. And this is why we use these API discovery services, so that as a developer, as an architect, you can connect to these APIs, you get a service specification, and you can auto-generate the connection to the endpoints and easily consume the data. That's the vision.
Yeah, thank you. So on the big picture, what this means is that if you have several NetWeaver stacks, just add this 80 megabytes ABAP add-on to certified ABAP add-on, I might add, to any of these stacks, and you just expose it everything as services. And you can be exposing this to whatever. Simple, right? Any ABAP stack in 20 minutes can be doing this. It's a plug and play. Any ABAP class can be exposed as a REST without doing any code. Plug and play.
So wait a minute, any? So if I'm developing a native app for iOS, let's say, an Xcode,
yeah,
I can connect to a REST API, right?
Yes.
So all of a sudden I can directly fetch the data from my business suite?
Exactly. But you can also just grab the Swagger file that generated automatically, grab that, go to the SAP API Business Hub, and add it there as a service. So it's 0 to SAP API Business Hub in 20 minutes. Literally. Okay? Might sound too good, but we have 1.5 million licensed end users that say the opposite in 39 countries, in 500 customers. Some of these customers are some of the biggest SAP customers that are using our software to produce applications, but also for doing everything else. So now in terms of the big picture, what do I do with this? How the two different runtimes can actually work together to be the Neptune DX platform? It can work together because on the stack that's on Swagger, called Planet 9, you have also the ability to connect to different API discovery services. And they, therefore, it becomes straightforward to bring the microservice out of the ABAP stack straight to a Kubernetes or Docker's containerized platform and application. That can then be exposed to other systems, and this can act as a proxy, can act as an IDP, can act as its own database, its own user base. And then you can use this to build applications. And of course you can build applications as well from your ABAP stack. It's up to the process to decide which stack you should use, or if you should use both. So we want to make technology completely anonymized here, so you're going to see just Fiori all the way. True Fiori. Okay? So now it's time for do you want to say something?
Before we move on, you mentioned containers.
Yeah.
I think that's something to focus on for a minute right here. So the Node.js stack runs on Docker containers, right? That means it is completely agnostic to your server, basically. You can install this module on your PC and start connecting to REST APIs or OData services. You can also install it on a Raspberry Pi, right? And use it as a gateway to connect your sensors, IoT, backbone structures. But at the same time, you can move all of this to the cloud of your choice.
Exactly.
And scale it.
Yeah. And the way we see, and I think that's common feeling on the market, is that customers will procure different services from different clouds. Hi kids. Hola. And they will be, therefore, there will be a combination of different services from different clouds that in the end, they will be on a multi-cloud kind of environment. So having a mobility not only of your enterprise assets, but also of your enterprise applications and your connectivity seamlessly, it's the key. We heard about, if you've been at TechEd this week, we've been hearing about a lot about containers, about different mobilizing, right? So we've been there like for a year and something now, and successfully have some interesting processes, and hopefully we'll have time to cover one of them. A digital supply chain that we're helping a very big company implementing. So let's quit the slides unless you have something else.
No, I think the big picture.
Okay, let's go to do something actually with our hands. Okay, let's go into the platform. And this is our product running on top of an ECC6. Could be an S4, as I said, could be a 10-year-old NetWeaver stack, doesn't matter. The same product runs anywhere. And let's look at the connectivity. So when we're talking about connectivity here, we're talking about API Designer. And of course, just to mention, we fully support OData as well. So what you're about to see can also be done with OData in terms of the applications to be developed. So smart components, CDS views, annotations, yeah, all of that is supported. But we want to be REST API driven because the way we see things is that everyone is doing REST APIs. Everyone else but ACP sometimes. ACP also does REST, does SOAP, does other things, depending on the product you have to interact with, right? So because that's the case, we want to put an emphasis on that we are REST API driven. So going here to the API Designer, and I'm going to create a REST API. But how am I going to create a REST API? Give it a name first.
So what you're doing basically while you're creating this is you're connecting some REST API to your SAP system. Is that correct? Because this is what we see when you see this for the first time now. This is the cockpit. This is a transaction that is running on normal ECC system right now. And by the way, this is all UI5. Our entire platform is built using SAP UI5.
You can tell. So what I've did is I give it a name, and I'm choosing what we call a data provider class. That will be the engine behind the REST API. But what makes it possible, this engine, is one thing that you have to add to any ABAP class. So we can actually see the ABAP here. And I could just move it up here. So the only thing that you have to add, it's an interface. All public attributes and all public methods of the ABAP class can directly be leveraged into operations as a REST API. So let's do just that. So I've added this. I'm going to add it to a package, the regular ABAP package, right? And this REST API can run stateful. So stateful here is a checkbox. And can also run on a front-end back-end split. So you can have running this DPC, this data provider class, into a different RFC destination. You just pick it, the ones that you have on a SEM39, if you're talking ACP transactions. So simple. Then creating an operation. Get cast list. And a CRUD method. So we support all the CRUD methods, delete, the gets, the posts, and the puts. Right? So let's create a get. And, oh, what's this? So these are the publicly available public ABAP methods of the DPC class that I chose. So we're actually reading ABAP. Because one of the biggest assets that you can have is to run on the same business layer as your processes are, your configuration is, your data is. And we are here running on the ABAP stack. We're not integrating with it. We are running within. So you can reuse anything you have, standard, custom, doesn't matter. You can reuse all the ABAP stack. It's like developing in ABAP, because it is. Simple. So I'm going to get my customer list. And I'm going to choose from the request, okay, these are the input parameters of the method, and I can choose on the response, configure that I would want to get this. So what we're doing here is we're transforming a runtime instance of an ABAP class. All the attributes that are filled, we are transforming it into JSON. So we're talking about RESTful being JSON or XML. Yes, we're using JSON. So you can even compress it.
Completely in line with the de facto standards that we see all over the world in web development. If you look at Facebook, Twitter, and so forth and so on, Google, of course, same thing.
So, and of course, I have to, because I put a package, I have to put it in a transport request. So this is all deployed throughout the landscape by using ACP transports. Again, standard stuff. Everyone has it. Everyone knows it. So putting it here in one. And it's saved. So now I have an operation. Now I have a REST API. Can I try it? Yes, you can.
This is where Swagger comes into place. Huh?
And where is it? It's here. So now I can try it and directly and execute, and you can see the result here is now JSON. Right? But how do I expose this? Well, you already have. And of course, you can assign ACP roles to this REST API, so that actually who's accessing it has to have the roles in order to get what's underlying the data. So encapsulation, security, using everything that ACP has. And how is the communication? Well, it goes through the ICF node. Standard again, okay? So how do I now consume this? So if I go over here to the slide, so we are now there, and we have just exposed. So now let's go into the cloud. Let's go into a Kubernetes container running on the cloud, and we are running
Amazon Web
Services
right now. Mm-hmm.
So let's see, how can I consume this? So now I'm in the cloud. Okay. So the DX concepts, the DX user experience is also here. It looks the same, acts the same, because again, this is part of the same platform.
2 modules, 1 platform.
Exactly. So it's running on Amazon. So I click one add. Oh, and I want to import. I want to import using an API discovery service. So now I can see what kind of systems I have available. And one of them is the one that I just connected to. So, oh, I have it here, sit REST API. It's imported. Save. It's here. It's done. Can I try it? Yes. Of course you can. And I get the same JSON. Simple.
So you just exposed the customer data of your ECC on-premise system to a cloud. And from the cloud, now we can think about the cherries, the UX for the end users, the applications.
Exactly. And you're talking about, oh, how did you just connect it? How did you authenticate? Well, we support here, in one of the methods, authentication methods that we support is actually ACP principal propagation. But wait, do we have a gateway? Do we have a cloud connector? No, we don't, actually. So we are going and creating ACP principal propagation, and from our product that runs on the cloud, we are actually doing it straight into my ABAP stack. But of course, you can go through the gateway, no problem.
So you can use the SAP Cloud Connector, but
yes.
This looks like a Neptune Cloud Connector to me.
Yes. Can be seen as such, because this can be an IDP. We can create certificates. We can generate the certificates right here. Can have here connect to users on LDAP, on SAML2, or even local users. Because this, now we're running on something on the cloud. There is the full stack platform that you can build applications, UI5 applications that can run online, offline. And we can also use the one in the back. So you decide which ones do you want to use. Now, how do I actually put this on an application? So why not just make one? So I'm opening now here our IDE, our app designer. And I'm going to create a new app. And choose from a template.
Fury UX.
And now I have here a application, right? So this is our IDE. What you have on the left is like the UI5 libraries. Here on the middle, you have exactly your applications. Thank you, David. And how do we connect things? So let's add a resource to it, which is a REST API. And now I'm going to pick up mine. And the operation that I want to use. And initial load. Then I'm going to have
collect it right away.
Component. And now this connecting the dots here.
So now we are connecting the endpoint with the JSON response to the SAP UI5 application, basically.
Exactly. And you can see that I can see immediately what's being provided, even the names and that are coming out of the ABAP stack, right?
So I'm back in my ABAP class here.
Now I can just come here and connect to it. It's connected. Now I'm just going to add here one field into the attributes of this list. Going to add the name.
And the customer number, all you need in SAP,
Add here an icon. And yep, that should be it. So
run it.
See. Activate. The app is generated server side, and here we have. I've just built a application on the Kubernetes application container connecting to a DPC class on a REST API that just runs ABAP.
Amazing
the same
stuff.
type of application you can build directly on-premise on your system. So even to make this offline, I just need to come here to the model and say that it's cached. And now this will be a Fiori offline application. So in the big picture, what can this be doing, for instance, is that you can have an application simple as this, and we're consuming my customer base from my CRM, which is salesforce.com, and I'm getting an overview of the opportunities I have on Salesforce and actually the sales order coming out of SAP. With single sign-on strategy, with user role base in place, everything. But we're talking about, very quickly, about
the full
use case.
Right. So again, to pick you up here, this is the technology, of course, but the bigger picture is, of course, integration and harmonization for the users, for the end users. Because what we want to achieve, technology is cool, but what we want to achieve is that people get supported by doing their job, right? And applications needs to do that by providing the steps and the processes that you as a user need to fulfill your job. So I don't want to log into 3, 4, 5 different systems to do my job. I want to have one harmonized application fetching the data from SAP, from Salesforce, maybe from Oracle or other systems, depending on what I'm trying to achieve here. Connecting the dots. A full DX case using 2 modules could be supporting a digital supply chain. As we speak, we talk to a couple of the largest automotive companies in the world, and we talk to their enterprise architects, because they all have a common pain, their supply chain. Supply chain, sure, everyone knows, everyone has heard about it, but what happens actually on a large scale, and we're talking about millions of cars being produced every year, you have the customers, and of course you have the customer demand, which gets created, and then you need to get the suppliers to supply the actual material just in time, best case. The entire supply chain, of course, consists of the typical steps, from planning to transport to managing customs. It's a global supply chain, of course, handling material, and then finally you produce a car, if everything goes well, right? And then there's also reverse logistics here in supply chain. All the packaging from thousands of suppliers supplying the material is being provided by the car companies typically. And here's the problem. Those enterprise architects are telling us each of the steps in this supply chain, each of the steps is a silo. They have great people. They know their stuff. But if you ask any of their managers, any of their employees about the supply chain, they will tell you everything about just one of the steps. The different silos are not connected. And if you think this is an IT problem or a process problem, it is an organizational problem. Because we're talking about companies here with hundreds of thousands of employees. Each silo is its own organization. They have their own HR. They have their own IT landscape. So if you think about the opportunity here, connecting those silos, it's pure money in the end that you could save.
Christoph.
So what are they looking for? Their vision is an overall supply chain dashboard. You could even say an overall control system, right? That suppliers can access, but that connects the different silos. And this can be achieved to monitor, to support, to break the silos, to restructure the organization by providing a middleware that connects all the different systems in those silos. We're talking about hundreds of SAP systems. We're talking about Oracle transport management in the supply chain area. We're talking about Azure data lakes, where they dump data and they don't know what to do with it. Analytics.
And all of this, of course, uses different technology, because they're not just running on technology stacks. They can only integrate with their own technology, either being SOAP or XMLs or IBM MQs or REST APIs. The overall goal is how can this be all together. So this is a ongoing project that the Neptune DX platform is the membrane between the existing systems. We live within the existing systems.
Right. When you look at those architectures, if you talk to the enterprise architects and you see their system landscapes, it's boxes, of course, hundreds of boxes, and it's arrows, thousands of arrows, typically in between two of the boxes. And with Neptune software, with the small example we showed you today, just connecting one SAP system to the cloud, you can get rid of those arrows and create a membrane around all of it, connecting things by using REST as your standard API.
So in the end, what you want to end up is a very nice cake with very nice cherries that can run anywhere at any kind of OS and can integrate any process of any kind. And that's a true, real factor, and this is the Neptune DX platform. So in the end, what you get, you get digital experience, not only on the applicational level, but also on streamlining processes across different technology stacks, and still keeping UI5 up there.
Right. So fragmentation will never be ended, but integration means harmonization. Harmonization for the user, and this leads to digital experience. And with that, have a great day.
Thank you.
And
have a good sit. Thank you to your organization.